Have you ever stopped to wonder why you keep chasing things that seem like they'll bring joy? A new gadget, a compliment, a few minutes scrolling social media, that morning cup of coffee, only for that feeling of satisfaction to vanish almost instantly, leaving behind a strange kind of emptiness? Have you ever felt like you're stuck in repetitive habits, even ones you know aren't good for you, but you just can't seem to stop? Why is it that the harder we try to find happiness, the more tired and lost we sometimes feel? In today's high-pressure, temptation-filled world, it's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of seeking instant gratification. We often mistake excitement, those short-term mental boosts, for true happiness. But is that really the truth? Or are we unknowingly becoming slaves to our own desires, to subtle addicts that we often don't even recognize? Today on BookSmart Insights, we're going to unpack these tough questions through the lens of a profoundly insightful and eye-opening psychology book, Unwinding Anxiety by Dr. Judson Brewer. He's not just a brilliant American psychiatrist and neuroscientist. He's a leading expert in habit change and the science of self-mastery, skillfully blending years of mindfulness practice with cutting-edge brain research. This book is like a roadmap, helping us understand the hidden enemy, the sophisticated addiction mechanisms operating within our own brains, and more importantly, showing us the path to regain control, escape the grip of craving, and find a more fulfilling, healthy, and authentic life. Sounds a bit intense, right? Don't worry. We're going to break it all down together, piece by piece, in a really approachable, easy-to-understand way, just like we're having a chat. So grab a warm drink, bring an open mind, and let's begin this journey of exploring the hidden secrets within ourselves. To understand why we so easily fall into habit loops, even unhealthy ones, we first need to understand a little bit about how our brains work. It might seem incredibly complex with its 86 billion neurons, but Dr. Brewer points out a stunning fact. Fundamentally, our reward-based learning mechanism is quite similar to a sea slug. Yes, you heard that right. A creature with an incredibly simple nervous system. Both sea slugs and humans share a core survival instinct. Seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. The slug moves towards food, advantage, and away from toxins, disadvantage. We do the same. Our brains are hardwired to seek out what feels good, comfortable, and pleasurable, things it registers as rewards, and to avoid what feels uncomfortable, painful, or tiring. This is the reward-based learning loop, an incredibly ancient and powerful mechanism that helped our ancestors survive for millions of years. It operates in 3 basic steps. Step 1. Trigger. A cue from the environment or an internal state. Examples: a rumbling stomach, feeling bored, seeing a notification pop up on your phone. Step 2. Behavior. The action you take in response to the trigger. Examples: finding food, scrolling social media, smoking a cigarette. Step 3. Reward. The pleasant or satisfying feeling the behavior delivers. Examples: the taste of food, temporary entertainment, and a feeling of relaxation. And the star player in creating this reward feeling is dopamine. Many call it the happiness hormone, but more accurately, dopamine is the molecule of wanting more, the molecule of craving. When you do something your brain deems good, like eating something sweet when hungry, dopamine is released in a brain region called the nucleus accumbens, creating that feeling of, wow, that was great. Let's remember this and do it again. Every time this loop runs and you get that dopamine hit, the neural connection between the trigger, behavior, and reward gets stronger. Gradually, the behavior becomes automatic, turning into a habit. Now, this sounds fine if we only formed good habits, right? But here's the catch. Our clever brains have a potentially harmful knack for creative association. It doesn't just link hunger with eating. It learns to connect negative emotions like stress, sadness, and anxiety with behaviors that offer immediate, albeit temporary, rewards. For example, you're stressed from work. Your brain searches its memory bank and recalls, hey, eating that cake last time felt good. So it whispers, why not have some cake? You'll feel better. And just like that, not only physical hunger, but also signals of sadness or stress become triggers for eating, or shopping, gaming, or scrolling. We use these behaviors like temporary painkillers, a way to avoid uncomfortable feelings. Psychologist B.F. Skinner called this behaviorism. We approach pleasant stimuli and avoid unpleasant ones. It sounds logical, but Dr. Brewer points out a critical flaw. This approach turns us into reactive machines, like the sea slug, acting on instinct rather than conscious choice and self-awareness. We just chase the reward without truly understanding the long-term consequences. And what's even more dangerous? From a mechanism designed for survival, we inadvertently learn to self-destruct through these seemingly harmless habits. We fall into tech addiction, shopping addiction, unhealthy eating patterns, alcohol or drug dependency, sinking deeper and deeper. As the writer Aldous Huxley once said, most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. We take the power of these habit loops for granted until we realize we've lost control. When a behavior is repeated often enough, based on rewards or punishments, it doesn't just become a habit, it also shapes how we perceive the world. We start forming subjective biases, distorted lenses we automatically put on whenever we face a situation. Simply put, subjective bias refers to beliefs, assumptions, and interpretations formed based on past experiences, especially those tied to strong emotions, rewards, or punishments, without conscious, rational thought in the present moment. For examples, you eat chocolate cake and find it incredibly delicious. Reward. The next time you choose a cake, you'll tend to be biased towards chocolate, automatically assuming it's better than others without even tasting it. You hear your father say, "Men don't do housework, that's women's work." If you accept this without critical thinking, perhaps fearing disapproval or wanting praise for being a real man, it becomes your subjective bias. You'll view all situations involving chores through that lens instead of assessing them fairly and reasonably. These biases act like mental shortcuts. They help the brain save energy by making quick decisions based on past experiences. But the problem is that past experiences aren't always accurate or relevant to the current situation. We spend much of our lives on autopilot, reacting based on reflexes shaped by subjective bias instead of pausing, observing, and thinking consciously. Nobel laureate psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls this System 1 thinking, intuitive, emotional, and prone to errors. And it's precisely these subjective biases that often lead us astray. We judge others based on first impressions or preconceived notions, make decisions based on fleeting emotions instead of logical analysis, solve problems by repeating old solutions, even when they no longer work, avoid challenges due to fear of failure based on past unpleasant experiences. The tricky part is we often don't even realize these biases exist. We believe we're seeing the world objectively and that our reactions are perfectly reasonable. It becomes especially dangerous when subjective bias combines with the loop of avoiding negative emotions. When feeling down, instead of facing the feeling and exploring its root cause, bias tells us, have a drink, smoke a cigarette, play a game, go shopping. You'll feel better. We follow the advice, get temporary relief, the reward, and that bias gets reinforced. Just like that, we train ourselves to keep running away instead of resolving the issue. The suffering not only continues, but is compounded by the consequences of the bad habit. As the Buddha taught, the root of suffering is ignorance, not seeing the true nature of things, phenomena, and our own minds. Dr. Brewer sees a striking parallel between this Buddhist concept and subjective bias in modern psychology. Both describe how we are blinded by faulty perceptions and deeply ingrained mental habits, causing us to act blindly and create our own suffering. So, how do we escape this vicious cycle? How do we take off these biased glasses and see reality more clearly? The answer, according to both Dr. Brewer and ancient wisdom, lies in a powerful tool: mindfulness. When people hear mindfulness, they might think of meditation, sitting still for hours. That's part of it, but not the whole picture. Mindfulness, at its core, is the ability to pay attention, on purpose, to the present moment with an attitude of non-judgment, openness, and curiosity. Imagine you're lost in a dense forest. If you act based on subjective bias, fear, panic, you'll frantically run around, desperately trying to find a way out, and likely end up getting even more lost. But if you practice mindfulness, the first thing you do is stop. You take a deep breath, feel the ground beneath your feet, and listen to the surrounding sounds. You observe the situation calmly. Then, you might pull out a map and compass if you have them, or observe the sun's direction and the flow of a stream to get your bearings. Only then do you start finding your way out methodically and consciously. Mindfulness works similarly for our lost minds. It helps us stop, break free from autopilot mode, resisting the urge to react immediately based on old habits. Observe, see clearly what's actually happening inside us. The craving, the uncomfortable feeling, the racing thoughts, without getting swept away or judging them. Recognize, clearly see the link between the trigger, the behavior, and the real reward, often just temporary relief from discomfort, followed by negative consequences. Choose, gain the mental space to make a wiser decision rather than just reacting instinctively. Dr. Brewer emphasizes that mindfulness isn't about trying to suppress or eliminate uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, or cravings. Trying to fight them often just makes them stronger, the "don't think of a pink elephant" effect. Instead, mindfulness invites us to turn towards those experiences, observing them with curiosity and acceptance. When you really pay attention, for instance, to the craving for sweets, what does it actually feel like in your body? How strong is it? How long does it last? Is it truly as unbearable as you think? When you observe long enough and closely enough, you realize that the craving, like any other feeling, is just a wave. It arises, peaks, and naturally subsides and disappears if you don't feed it with action. In this way, mindfulness helps us break the automatic loop by clearly seeing the real reward, or lack thereof, that the addictive behavior brings. For instance, guilt after overeating, coughing after smoking, fatigue after hours of scrolling. The reward value of that behavior in the brain decreases. Devaluation. Gradually, the brain updates its programming. Oh, this isn't actually rewarding anymore, and the motivation to perform the behavior weakens. This isn't about using willpower to battle the addiction. It's about using wisdom to let it dissolve naturally. As Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said, mindfulness helps us go home to the present moment. And every time you go there and recognize a condition of happiness that you have, happiness comes. In the next section, we'll delve into specific types of addiction Dr. Brewer discusses and how to apply mindfulness, particularly the RAIN method, to deal with them. The book points out that addictive substances aren't just drugs or alcohol. They can be anything we repeatedly turn to in order to change how we feel, avoid discomfort, or seek instant gratification to the point where we lose control. The author categorizes and analyzes several common forms of addiction, making them easier for us to recognize in our daily lives. Addiction 1. Direct addiction. Smoking, alcohol, sweets, even scratching. These are the types of addiction we usually think of first. The person knows the harm: lung cancer, liver disease, diabetes, skin damage, but still can't stop. The trigger, behavior, reward loop is very clear here. Trigger: craving, nicotine, alcohol, sugar. Stress: boredom, sadness, physical discomfort, like an itch. Behavior: smoking, drinking, eating sweets, scratching. Reward: temporary high-stress reduction, forgetting sorrow, relief from itching, even if it causes more damage. A common trait Brewer observed in people with these addictions is that they act as if programmed, losing their ability to choose. The prefrontal cortex, the center of reason and self-control, seems to get hijacked when craving or stress hits, ceding control to the emotional, instinctual parts of the brain. This is why simply using willpower to quit often fails or is incredibly difficult. Forcing yourself only increases the discomfort. So what's the solution? Dr. Brewer introduces a very specific and effective mindfulness technique called RAIN. R. Recognize. As soon as the craving or difficult emotion arises, gently name it. Ah, the urge to smoke is here. Feeling the pull towards sweets. There's that feeling of boredom. This recognition pulls you out of automatic reaction mode. A. Allow or accept. Instead of trying to push it away or ignore it, allow the craving emotion to simply be there. Tell yourself, it's okay, this feeling is present right now. I don't have to act on it immediately. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement or surrender. It means stopping the useless struggle against reality. I. Investigate. This is the core step. Turn your curious attention towards the physical sensation in your body. Where is it located? Stomach, chest, throat. What does it feel like? Hot, cold, tight, empty, vibrating? How does it change over time? Also, observe the accompanying thoughts. I need a cigarette now. Just one cookie won't hurt. Without judging or believing them, simply observe. N. Note non-identification. Note what you observe with simple, objective words. Tightness in chest, warmth, thought, craving, restlessness. Crucially, do not identify with the feeling or thought. You have the craving. You are not the craving. Observe it like a scientist watching a phenomenon until it naturally weakens and fades. If your mind wanders, which is perfectly normal, gently bring your attention back to observing. Dr. Brewer emphasizes that practicing RAIN doesn't mean the craving will vanish instantly or never return. It will still come, but the difference is, instead of automatically acting on it, you have another option: to watch it pass. Every time you ride out the craving with mindfulness instead of indulging the addictive behavior, you weaken the old neural pathway and build a new one, the pathway of self-awareness and control. Gradually, the frequency and intensity of the cravings will decrease. Many people who read and apply this method share that it can be challenging initially to sit with discomfort, but with persistence, they start to see the true face of the craving. It's not as powerful or unbearable as they thought, and the reward it promises is actually empty and harmful. Addiction 2. Technology addiction, the sweet trap of the digital world. Who among us doesn't own a smartphone? Who doesn't use social media? Technology offers countless benefits, connecting us and providing information and entertainment. But its dark side is its extremely high potential for addiction. The author recounts an experience at the Louvre Museum. Instead of looking at the art, many people were busy taking selfies, posting to Facebook, and then constantly checking for likes and comments. It seemed the online performance was more important than the real experience. Why? Research from Harvard University shows that when we talk about ourselves, something social media heavily encourages, the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center, light up intensely. We get little dopamine hits with every new notification, like or validating comment. The brain learns quickly. Post something, get likes and comments. Feel good, repeat. It's no different from the mechanism of drug addiction. The consequences? Leon Festinger's research on Facebook addiction indicated the more addicted people are to online interaction, the poorer their mood regulation, the lower their self-esteem, and the greater their social isolation in the real world. A painful irony. The tool meant to connect us can leave us feeling more lonely and insecure. We fall into the habit of checking our phones unconsciously whenever we have a spare moment, even just a few seconds waiting at a red light. Average daily screen time keeps climbing. 6 to 7 hours a day is no longer uncommon. As Nassim Taleb said, the difference between technology and slavery is that slaves are fully aware that they are not free. We, the tech slaves, often don't even realize we've lost our mental freedom. How to break free from tech addiction? Again, it's not about trying to ban it completely or relying on iron willpower, almost impossible in today's world. It's about applying mindfulness and rein. Recognize, there's that urge to pick up my phone again. Allow, okay, that feeling is here. Investigate, what does this urge feel like? Where is it coming from? Boredom, anxiety, FOMO? What am I really looking for? Connection, entertainment, or just escaping the present moment? Note, track the feeling. Maybe try setting a brief waiting period, e.g., 5 minutes, before picking up the phone. During those 5 minutes, observe if the urge lessens. Gradually, you create space between the impulse and the action. Addiction 3. Self-addiction, trapped in a fragile ego. Sounds strange, right? How can you be addicted to yourself? Here, self-addiction doesn't mean healthy self-love. It refers to building and clinging to an image or story about ourselves, the ego, based on external feedback, rewards, and punishments, especially from childhood. For example, a child consistently praised as smart for getting good grades, reward. They tend to build an identity as the smart one, constantly striving for achievement to reinforce that image and keep receiving praise. They become addicted to positive feedback. A child is frequently criticized as stupid or clumsy. Punishment. They might internalize these criticisms, building an identity as inadequate. They become hypersensitive to negative feedback and feel chronically insecure. The ego built this way is often very fragile and dependent on external validation. It creates two opposing extremes, like two ends of a rope. The end addicted to positive feedback can lead to narcissistic personality disorder. This person craves admiration, wants to be the center of attention, is highly sensitive to criticism, and struggles with empathy because they're so preoccupied with their own image. The end addicted to or heavily influenced by negative feedback can lead to borderline personality disorder. This person fears rejection and abandonment, feels chronically empty, has low self-worth, and often engages in unstable relationships, desperately trying to cling on to fill their inner void. Both extremes cause immense suffering. We get trapped in trying to protect or seek validation for our fragile sense of self. The solution? Mindfulness helps us recognize the stories and images about ourselves we're clinging to. Observe external feedback, both praise and criticism, more neutrally, without automatically accepting it as the absolute truth about who we are. Practice gratitude when receiving feedback, instead of becoming defensive or self-critical. Understand that our core worth doesn't depend on grades, achievements, or what others say. As the philosopher Epictetus said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Mindfulness helps us change the views we take of ourselves and the world's judgments. Addiction 4. Distraction addiction. Escaping the present into daydreams. Are you working, but your mind is wandering to your upcoming vacation? Are you talking to someone, but mentally planning your weekend? Picturing pleasant future events also triggers the dopamine reward system, giving us a temporary feel-good hit. This is distraction addiction, the habit of letting the mind wander, escaping from whatever is happening right here, right now, which might be boredom, difficulty, or simply quietness. A study cited mentioned that we spend nearly 50% of our waking hours with our minds wandering, and people whose minds wander more tend to report lower levels of happiness. Why? Lost connection. We don't fully experience life as it unfolds. Reduced productivity. It's hard to focus and complete tasks. Potential danger. Distracted driving, inattentive childcare. Also, creates disappointment. After the daydream fades, returning to reality can feel more stressful or disappointing. As the famous saying goes, the mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. When the mind wanders uncontrollably, it becomes the master, leading us into unhelpful thoughts and feelings of unhappiness. The solution: practice mindfulness to anchor the mind in the present. Pay attention to your breath. Feel the sensations in your body. Observe your surroundings using your senses. When you notice the mind wandering, gently bring it back to the present task or your breath, without self-criticism. The goal isn't to never think about the past or future, but to do so consciously, rather than being swept away aimlessly. Addiction 5. Thinking addiction. Stuck in the mental maze. Eckhart Tolle, author of The Power of Now, calls this one of the most insidious addictions because those caught in it often don't realize it. Thinking itself isn't bad. It's a fantastic human tool. The problem arises when we get caught in incessant thought loops, identify with them, and infuse them with too much personal emotion. This often happens to worriers, perfectionists, or people in high-performance fields, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs. Before a competition or important presentation, they get trapped in thoughts like, I have to win. What if I fail? What will people think? This overthinking creates intense stress, and ironically, the stress inhibits higher brain functions, preventing them from performing at their best. If the outcome isn't ideal, they continue to get sucked into negative thought loops, blaming and criticizing themselves. I'm so useless. I should have this. Replaying feelings of failure, which can easily lead to depression. The solution: mindfulness helps us observe thoughts like clouds passing in the sky. Recognize that thoughts are just thoughts, not necessarily reality or your true identity. Create distance between the observer, you, and the observed, the thought. You don't have to believe every thought that pops into your head, especially the negative, repetitive ones. Focus on action in the present. Practice preparation, instead of getting lost in anxieties about the outcome. As the philosopher Lao Tzu said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." Letting go of identification with limiting thoughts helps unleash our true potential. Addiction 6. Love addiction. When love becomes an obsession. Love is one of the most powerful and beautiful human emotions, but it can also become a subtle form of addiction. Anthropologist Helen Fisher calls romantic love one of the most addictive substances on earth. Her research shows that When we fall in love, especially in the early passionate phase, brain regions producing dopamine are highly activated, similar to using cocaine. The newer the relationship, the bigger the high. This explains why some people fall into patterns of serial monogamy, thrill-seeking, constantly seeking novelty, the chase, to recapture that initial euphoric feeling, finding it hard to sustain long-term relationships. Control and jealousy, wanting to possess the partner, fearing the loss of their dopamine supply. Inability to accept breakups, desperately begging, clinging when love ends, because the withdrawal feels like drug withdrawal. Behind these behaviors often lies an inner emptiness. The love addict isn't truly loving the other person fully. They are loving the feeling the relationship gives them. They use love to fill their own loneliness, insecurity, or lack of self-worth. It's a fundamentally selfish, self-serving kind of love, even if disguised as romance. The solution? Cultivating a more unconditional and less self-centered love. Practice loving-kindness meditation, an ancient mindfulness practice aimed at developing compassion, empathy, and loving feelings, not just for loved ones, but also for oneself, strangers, and even difficult people. Shift focus from getting to giving. True love involves wishing happiness for the other without necessarily needing something in return. Build self-worth from within. Instead of seeking validation and fulfillment solely from others, when love is no longer centered on satisfying the ego's needs, it becomes expansive, freeing, and brings a much deeper sense of warmth and connection. In summary, whether it's an addiction to a substance, a behavior, a device, or even to the self, thought, or love, the core mechanism remains the trigger, behavior, reward, dopamine loop, and the avoidance of discomfort. And the key to breaking these loops lies in mindfulness, the ability to recognize, accept, and observe our inner experience without judgment, thereby reclaiming our power to choose and our self-control. One of the most crucial and awakening messages of the book is the clear distinction between happiness and excitement. We constantly confuse these two, and this confusion is the root of so much suffering. Excitement. These are the short-term dopamine hits, the fleeting highs we get from our addictive habits, eating tasty food, buying something new, receiving praise, winning a game, seeing sensational news. It comes from the outside, depends on conditions, and is often followed by restlessness, anticipation, and then a crash or emptiness when it fades. Excitement is like fireworks, dazzling for a moment, then gone. Happiness. This is a deeper state of well-being, contentment, and peace that arises from within. It's less dependent on external circumstances. It's a feeling of fullness, connection, meaning, and stability, even when facing difficulties. Happiness is like sunshine, warm, nourishing, and sustainable. The Buddha, who experienced the extremes of luxury and sensory pleasure as a prince, realized that satisfaction derived from desire never lasts. It only makes one crave more, creating an endless cycle of craving, tanha, and suffering, dukkha. He pointed out a stark truth. What the world calls happiness, excitement, satisfying desires, the noble ones call suffering. What the world calls suffering, letting go, facing reality, the noble ones find happiness. We, in our ignorance, we keep chasing fleeting excitement. We put others down to feel superior, the thrill of feeling better than. Binge-watch shows or scroll social media for hours, the excitement of constant stimulation. Eat or drink excessively, calling it enjoying life, the excitement of sensory pleasure. Go on shopping sprees to relieve stress or project an image, the excitement of acquisition. We do all this because we don't know healthy ways to cope with the stress, emptiness, and discomfort inside us. We try to fill the void with endless desires, but the more we try to fill it, the bigger the hole seems to get. The fire of craving keeps burning, and we remain lost in a cycle of self-destruction. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who studied the flow state, also noted, control of consciousness determines the quality of life. When we let desire and excitement control us, the quality of our lives cannot be truly good. So, how do we escape the allure of excitement and find the path to genuine happiness? How do we extinguish the flames of craving that burn within us? Dr. Brewer doesn't just diagnose the problem. He offers practical suggestions based on both brain science and practical wisdom, so we can gradually break free from the grip of desire and cultivate lasting happiness. He proposes 4 key pillars. Pillar 1. Combine mindfulness with interest, driven by curiosity. We know mindfulness is the foundation, but to sustain focus, especially in everyday activities, just trying hard can be tiring and counterproductive. The author suggests adding a wonderful spice: interest driven by curiosity. This isn't the excitement that comes with expectation and pressure. I have to achieve this. It's a genuine, open-hearted interest in understanding the present experience more deeply. Oh, this is interesting. How does this work? How do I feel while doing this? For example, when reading a book, instead of just trying to finish it, be curious about the content, the author's message, and the character's feelings. This curiosity will naturally draw you in, helping you focus without straining. When doing a seemingly boring task, try being curious. Is there a more interesting way to do this? What can I learn from it? What does this feeling of boredom actually feel like? Even when facing a craving, get curious about it, as in the investigate step of RAIN. What flavor does this craving have? How strong is it? What is it trying to tell me? This curiosity-driven interest is characterized by being playful, engaging, open, and not limited or demanding. It's intrinsic motivation, unlike excitement, which often stems from extrinsic motivation, rewards, recognition. When you act with curiosity, the action itself becomes rewarding. It helps you connect more deeply with the present and find joy even in ordinary things. Always ask yourself, how can I make this more meaningful and interesting for myself right now? Pillar 2. Combine mindfulness with kindness. In an age where social media allows anonymity and negativity spreads easily, kindness seems increasingly rare. We readily criticize, judge, and express anger to protect our egos or seek temporary validation. But these actions not only hurt others, they also nurture anger and negativity within ourselves, making our minds more turbulent and pushing peace further away. Mindfulness helps us recognize our biases and automatic reactions, allowing for a clearer, fairer view of others and ourselves. When combined with kindness, we create a powerful force for transformation. Kindness here includes 2 main aspects. Generosity. This isn't just about giving money or material things, but also being willing to offer our time, listening ear, and help without expecting anything in return or seeking recognition. As the Pali Canon states, the giver, before giving, is glad. While giving inspires the heart, after giving is delighted. The true reward of generosity is the inner satisfaction, the warmth in the heart from knowing you've done good, not external acknowledgement. When you give without selfish expectations, you free yourself from disappointment and resentment. Virtue ethics. Living an ethical life, not lying, stealing, or harming others, isn't just about fearing punishment. It helps keep the mind clear and peaceful. A Zen master said, "If we come to the meditation cushion having not lied, cheated, or stolen, there is less garbage to dispose of." When your mind isn't burdened by guilt or fear of being caught, it's much easier to focus and find stillness. Kindness and goodness are like cool water, washing away the dust of greed, hatred, and delusion in the mind, and helping mindfulness take deeper root. When you practice kindness towards others, you are also being kind to yourself. Pillar 3. Cultivating flow. This is the concept researched and named by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. The flow state is a state of complete immersion and engagement in an activity for its own sake, to the point where you lose track of time and even yourself. Have you ever experienced this? Reading a great book and being unable to put it down, looking up to find hours have passed. Playing music, painting, or writing where time seems to stop. Engaging in sports, crafts, coding, completely focused, actions flowing effortlessly. Have a deep conversation where you feel totally connected and understood. That's flow. In this state, concentration is intense and distractions fade away. Goals are clear and feedback is immediate. There's a sense of control over the situation. Self-consciousness disappears. No worrying about image or judgment. The sense of time is altered, speeds up or slows down. The activity itself is the reward, autotelic experience. The flow state brings profound satisfaction, exhilaration, and meaning. It's the peak of focus and presence. Meditation itself is a way to train the mind to enter flow states more easily. However, achieving flow requires a balance between the challenge of the task and your skill level. If the challenge is too high for your skills, you'll feel anxious. If your skills far exceed the challenge, you'll feel bored. Cultivating flow takes patience and consistent practice. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't achieve it right away. Value the quality of focus over the quantity of time. If you feel tired, take a break. Perfect practice makes perfect, not just practice alone. Pillar 4. Building resilience. Life isn't always smooth sailing. Difficulties, challenges, and losses are unavoidable. Even when we've recognized and are working to break free from addictions, life events can easily pull us back into old loops if we lack sufficient inner resilience. Resilience here isn't just about enduring hardship or toughing it out. The author defines it as the capacity for flexibility, adaptability, and bouncing back or even forward quickly after adversity. Like bamboo in the wind, it can bend without breaking and return to its upright position. A great example given is about empathy. When a loved one is suffering, we naturally feel empathy. But if we get swept away by their pain, feeling anxious and exhausted as if it were our own, this is called empathic distress. Over time, our self-protection mechanisms might cause us to become numb and lose empathy to shield ourselves. We lose resilience. True resilience, in this case, is compassion, the ability to understand and feel for another's pain, with a desire to help while maintaining inner calm and not being overwhelmed by their emotions. How do we build resilience? The key lies in changing how we respond to difficulties and stressors. Recognize habitual reactions. When facing a tough situation, criticism, failure, loss, notice your automatic response. Anger, sadness, defensiveness, blaming. Don't personalize. Understand that others' actions or words often reflect their own issues more than yours. Don't automatically assume everything is about you. Practice flexibility. Instead of reacting rigidly, attacking back, running away, try looking deeper to understand the underlying causes. The other person's anger might stem from their own fear or hurt. Don't resist. Don't avoid. Accept reality as it is, even when painful. Observe your feelings without letting them sweep you away. This allows you to choose a more appropriate and constructive response. Resilience is built through the repeated practice of choosing a conscious response instead of reacting instinctively. Every time you face difficulty with mindfulness and flexibility, instead of resistance or collapse, you strengthen your mental muscles. As psychologist Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, famously said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." We've just journeyed quite deeply into the hidden addictions within our own brains and daily lives, and how mistaken ideas about happiness can lead us astray. Through the lens of Dr. Judson Brewer's work, conceptually, The Craving Mind, we've gained a clearer understanding of the trigger behavior reward loop, the power of dopamine, how subjective bias shapes our reality, and the crucial difference between fleeting excitement and lasting happiness. Most importantly, we've been introduced to a powerful tool for breaking these negative cycles and reclaiming our autonomy: mindfulness. Not as a magic cure, but as a continuous practice, a practice of recognizing, allowing, and observing our inner experience with curiosity and non-judgment. By combining mindfulness with curiosity, kindness, the ability to enter flow, and building inner resilience, we can gradually rewire our brains and escape the grip of insatiable desires and self-destructive habits. This isn't an easy path. There will be times we stumble, falling back into old patterns. That's perfectly normal. What matters is recognizing when we've strayed and gently bringing ourselves back to the path of practice with compassion for ourselves. Change takes time and patience. This book and our discussion today, hopefully, have lit a torch of awareness within you. Awareness that you're not alone in struggling with difficult habits and emotions. Awareness that you have the capacity to change. And awareness that true happiness isn't found in chasing external thrills, but by turning inward, mastering our minds, and living consciously, fully present in each moment. As the poet Rumi wrote, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." Similarly, our task isn't just to seek happiness somewhere out there, but to find and remove the barriers within, the addictions, biases, and fears that prevent happiness from flourishing right here, inside us. I truly hope today's insights from BookSmart Insights have been valuable and inspiring for your personal growth journey. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up to show your support. Share it with friends you care about, anyone who might also be searching for peace and genuine happiness. And most importantly, if you're not already part of the BookSmart Insights community, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future explorations of great books. We have many more exciting discoveries to make together. Thank you so much for listening and staying with me until the end. May you always find clarity, peace, and true joy on your path. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.